I think there's a good way to kind of thread the narrative on this, which is there are things I could learn in the next days, weeks, or months that make me say, oh, I understand why they were mad, but I also understand why he wasn't in the right place for any of it. There's a scenario where something could come out and I'd be like, oh, okay, I get it. But there are way more scenarios where this dude's pissed he got benched and screwed his team over. And that it does seem like from and this is where I do truly defer to the people, because the players and the coaches are truly offended by this. Like you just said it almost flippantly, like he can never play for them again.
Never.
Like we see guys, fight teammates legitimately. You know what I mean? Like and they both keep playing. We see we've heard incidents of, somebody dating someone else's something. Whatever. So I just want to, for a moment, why is this so just almost reflexively for all of you guys? Like, because all the former players on TV and all the coaches have that such a betrayal.
Because you pour so much into the game. Everybody's making sacrifices. Guys are playing hurt. There's guys that want to desperately play that can't be on the 53-man roster or can't be on the game day roster because someone else gets their spot. And then you have this one opportunity a week where you've got to come together and put everything else that's happening in your world on pause, any issues that you have with teammates on pause, to try to do something that's really hard to do, which is win a game, is to win the game. And that takes a lot of sacrifice and togetherness. And when you decide at halftime to selfishly walk out on your teammates, and not in any game it would be terrible, but you add the element of this means they're probably out of the playoffs. This is a close game. It's just like, we're done. We're done. We can't ever trust you again to be part of what we're trying to get done.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I wholeheartedly agree. And I want to talk about this from a few different angles as per usual. I'll give the same caveat that Nick Wright gave, where I agree, because again, I've only investigated this so much in terms of like the background of it all, because I know they're kind of questioning if there's like some sort of emergency, mental health, family type stuff, and obviously all of that aside, like I would absolutely give the benefit of the doubt on that type of situation. That's just the type of person that I am, and maybe other things again reveal itself as time goes on that I think it would then be excusable. I am not this, because it was earlier said where it's like, hey, we're all dealing with stuff, you got to find a way, and you could have let the 49ers know ahead of time, and it's just like, that's too narrow of a view of like mental health or how people deal with personal issues, whether it be family related, whatever it may be. So I will just absolutely give that caveat right then and there. But in terms of like why it's so angering, and why you're just like, you're from a team perspective, why you're like no, and why you're so angry from a coaching or player perspective, is because it's not only that you're giving it all, you're all making sacrifices and stuff like that, because you're all making sacrifices, but it is different when you're at the lower end of the totem pole relative to the higher end of the totem pole. Like, yeah, we're all making sacrifices, but like bro's making $200 million a year and I'm making $200,000 a year. So like, I played with players where we were both making the same level of sacrifice. We're both traveling all over the country, playing in games, getting on buses, doing everything we can. But like, one guy is getting all the praise and glory, and the other, and the other guy, like me, is not in that moment for that specific team. And, and it's been reversed in other teams where like I'm getting all the praise and glory and getting everything I could ever hope for out of, a tournament or a team or whatever. And there's other players that are not. And we're both making sacrifices. We're all doing it. And so it is always a spectrum in that regard, but at the same time, things also get reduced down to a binary when you're talking about being on a team. And I know any person who's played sports at a competitive level, you've heard this seriously since you're probably like depending on how competitive you played, like teams as early as like 7, 8, 9, where it's like you either want to be here or you don't. Anyone who's been exposed to high level coaching, like you've heard that 10,000 times. You either want to be here or you don't. You know how many people want to be here? You know how many other people would kill to have your seat at this table? You know, if you don't want to be here, the door's that way. I mean, like I've had that just embedded into my brain, you know, at every level essentially that I've ever played. Any team that you've had to try out for, essentially, no matter what level it was, no matter how great or how lucky I was just to kind of be on the team, it was always just that mentality of like, you got to be grateful that you're even here, that you have this opportunity, and you better want it. And not to mention, again, especially coming from a player perspective, the whole thing is that you have to constantly prove yourself to your coach and your team that you belong. There's really only a handful of players per team, and really like one or two, if that, sometimes, that like you know that they're there, you know that they belong. That is the Patrick Mahomeses of the world, and it doesn't even have to be the Patrick Mahomes, but at each level that you're playing at, whatever that proportionate version of the Mahomes of the team is. And it's like, yeah, you know, that guy doesn't need to prove he belongs, but he's still, most coaches will still hold them to a level of like, you better show up to practice, you better not be late, you better, you know, when we're like taking a knee and talking, you better not be talking, you're right, you better listen, you know, you better be a good soldier. But kind of everyone else that's involved, and that's why, you know, you're looking at Campbell at this point in his career and who he is. It's that constant, like, you gotta want this. You either want it or you don't. You either want to be here or you don't. You either care or you don't. There is no spectrum in that regard. It's not like, yeah, I want to be here, but like I also don't want to be here. I'm kind of, you know, or I really want to try hard, but like I want to try like medium hard. You either give 100% your effort or not. And like, it's not everyone feels that way. Like you get sold on this binary, but it's not always that case. And if you actually talk to especially ex-players more than anything, and they've been talking about this so much more in the NBA now than the NFL, because you just have more open people, I think, especially from like a podcasting perspective, where we've all heard this a lot now, where you have a lot of guys be like, dude, probably like 10% of the NBA players like actually care and truly want to be there. Everyone else is there because they're good enough to be there. And obviously it beats doing any other job. You get paid, you get fame, you get girls, you get all the things that you could ever dream of. And it's like, yeah, like, I'm not going to be a Hall of Famer. Like, yeah, I would love to win a ring, but like, my life's pretty cool. This is a job for me. And it's certainly a better job than, you know, ripping carpet up and stuff. And so it's like, you're going to do it. And this is where I also love what Marcellus Wiley talked about, you know, ex-NFL player, used to be on FS1. And he, you know, he talked a lot about this, and he's as honest as it gets for this perspective, and I really appreciated it, because he was having a conversation with Mark Schlereth about it. Mark Schlereth is definitely more of the old school, like, you either want it or you don't, let's go. And Marcellus White was like, bro, like, of course I want to win a ring and all that type of stuff, but like, the objective for me was to make as much money as I could. I came from poverty. I came from literal Compton. Like, I'm out here trying to just get that money and build a better life for myself. And in Mark Schlereth's eyes, his whole thing was everything got reduced down to, we have one objective and one objective only, and that is to win a ring, and we will sacrifice everything for that common goal. And it's like, you know, it's different perspectives. And I'm not even going to say that one is more correct than the other. It's really easy to take the high ground and say it's all about winning a ring, it's all about the championship, it's all about that. But again, to make it more humanized, like, these are people who do live regular lives, who are like, this is only a small part of their life. Yes, it's the biggest and arguably the most, I can't even say it's the most important, because it's really not. Like, your family, even if you don't have a wife and kids or whatever, like, your relationship with your mom and dad or loved ones should be more important than football, than any sport, than any profession. Like, it just should be. Whether you get to live that life or not, maybe not. Like, if I just suddenly got zapped, the way how my life is right now, if I just got suddenly zapped into the NFL, like, yeah, it would be the most important thing in my life. But better believe I would really hope that I could find something more important. Better believe that I would hope that I could find a relationship and love and children, all that would mean more to me than winning or losing a football game. And I'm someone that cares tremendously about all this type of stuff. So it's not even just it gets reduced to a binary if you got to be here or you're not. But at the same time, it's also dynamic. At some point, when you are 23, 24, or 25, and again, you don't have the kids and all that life yet, like, yeah, it is. You are all in. And I talked about this with Travis Kelce, actually. Like, Travis Kelce, once upon a time, football was everything. Everything. Life. There is nothing more than football. And now he's admitted that that's not the case. And I don't blame him. We can make all the jokes aside about Taylor Swift and all of that. And I've spoken about it. But I don't blame him whether she's a pop star or not. Like, yeah, that is more meaningful for him. Like, going out and finding love with Taylor Swift and living that life is going to be more meaningful. It also will have a greater impact on his life moving forward, because maybe he will get married and he will have children. He will build an actual family, an actual home. And so it's like things change over the years. The things that matter to you more when you were 22 don't matter as much when you were 30. Also, I'm pretty sure he's a little bit older. I think he's like 31, 32. And so it's like, also at that point in your career, sometimes you just run out of gas. Like, yeah, you're willing to be benched and fight for that spot and you want it back and prove to everyone. But eventually, sometimes you just run out of it and you just don't got it anymore. And again, I'm looking at this from so many different angles. But to be very clear, outside of it, again, like true, like emergency, mental health, whatever it may be, like there's definitely no excuse. Like everything that I said about things being dynamic and this and that, there's still no excuse, no question about it from leaving and doing that. No doubt about it. Because when you do play for a team like this, you are a family, and when someone like that does leave like that, it is kind of like a brother who you thought had your back, who you thought was there for you and would be supportive of you, just kind of be like, no, see ya. I mean, like it is just kind of like, oh my God. But it is also, and here's the thing, like anyone who's also worked a more traditional job where like you're, going into an office of some sort, you'll know, like corporate America, that they always are trying to sell you on this idea, we're a family. And it's like, okay, well, you know what? I don't want to show up to work tomorrow. Like, I'm just not really feeling well. It's like, well, you still got to show up, and it's like, well, you just told me we're a family and I'm not feeling it. Or it's like, well, you know what? I need a little bit more money. Like, you're paying me like $20 an hour. And honestly, it's really hard to live. Can you bump it up to just like 23? And it's like, I don't know. We'll have to talk to corporate about that. And it's like, I thought we're a family. Like I'm lucky I haven't been exposed to that too much, but like my cousin and some of the earlier jobs that I've had, and they kept trying to say, we're a family. And part of navigating that process is learning we're not a family. This is not a family. Yeah, I'm here to work and try to make money and improve the quality of my life and maybe even progress through my career. We are not a family. We work together. That's what this is. This is a hat that I put on, and this is a hat that I take off. And the reality is that's what the NFL and any professional sport is as well. It's a family, but it's also not. And I talk about family building within these teams and how connected it is, and it matters because it is. It's like it's both real and not. It's like a cosplay family, but also lifelong friendships and relationships that you build that really impact you. We know certain coaches are father figures to some of these players. Some players truly form an everlasting brothership bond, and some of it is not at all. There are absolutely some players that go in there and it's check in, check out. It's, I want to be here. I don't want to do anything else. But like, yeah, I do also have the awareness that like, this is a job. Yeah, I know, coach. Even someone as passionate as Dan Campbell and all of that, I guarantee you there are some players in that locker room that are still kind of like, yeah, I get it. We want this. This is big. And again, it's usually the little bit of the lower players. Occasionally some of the higher up players, but make no mistake about it. There's a lot of brainwashing, a ton of brainwashing in athletics. Like you get sold and told all these ideas. Not to mention, especially early on, you get sold and told ideas like as long as you work hard enough, you can achieve greatness. And like it's not until you get like to a certain level where you're like, no matter how hard I practice and no matter how hard I work at it, I will never be Patrick Mahomes. I could work 10 times as hard as Patrick Mahomes and I will still never be as good as he can be on his worst day. right? That is just a fact. So it's not a lack of will. It is just a pure genetic reality. And that is something that, like, a lot of times coaches and teams don't really ever want to necessarily emphasize. It's all about work ethic and how hard and what you get what you put in, and all these other coach speaks and cliches. So I know I took this in a more general, broad you know take in terms of just trying to, like, really look at this through a narrow, a kind of like, should have done, well, how should the 49ers feel about it? And I just feel like, we know he shouldn't have done that. That's obvious. And I rather looked at this from just like a little bit more deeper or more psychological kind of angle of it all. Because it is fascinating, and that's where Nick kind of talked, and I credit Nick for kind of being like, I'm gonna defer up to Mangini, because to me it doesn't seem like Nick has probably really played sports, and I don't mean that even as an insult, but this is where something, like I said, you don't even have to be in the NFL to really even deeply understand that. Obviously it's going to be emphasized and magnified if you reach a level like the NFL, NBA, MLB, things of that nature. But I think as long as you've just played any type of competitive sport where you truly spend time with a team, where you were traveling, going across the country, going to a various tournaments or whatever, where you did feel like, this is my family, this is my brother or sisterhood, where you've spent, like, again, late nights together, early mornings together, right, doing all that type of stuff, and you do feel that bond, and you've got inundated with all the coaches saying everything that a coach could ever say. If you've had that experience, then I think, like, you could understand kind of why players and coaches would be so upset. But this is where I think also someone like me can offer a little bit also of a different perspective, not only just from the psychological background, but also as well as, like, I know what it was like to be great on a team and really be like, this team needs me. And I also know what it's like to be bottom of the barrel, literally the worst player. I'm just lucky to even remotely be on that team. And I think it offers you can offer you a more broader range of a perspective of, like, what it's like to, like, look at other people and be like, are you kidding me? You don't want to be here? Get out of here. And then also, like, looking up and being like, you don't even know I exist. Stop pretending like when you say all these messages about, we got to do this, we got to do that, that you're talking to me, because I actually have such a minimal impact on this team right now that it is going out, in one ear, out the other. And I assume to a degree that's what kind of Campbell was feeling, where it was like, oh, you wanted me when you needed me, and now you're saying you don't need me, so now you benched me, and now when the guy's back, you take my spot away, and now he gets hurt, and now you want me back in? Nah, I'm good. And on one side, on the very surface side, I get it, but that's where you have to have the awareness and maturity. I'm like, bro, that's how it works. He's better than you. That's what this is. That's how this all unfolds. If you were better than him, then you would be playing. You're not, so you're not. That is the cold reality of sports, which is why it is the great equalizer. It's not about just how hard you work or if you show up. The reality is if you're better, you're better. And that just is what it is. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about kind of how this all unfolded? Some of the things that I was talking about. Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.